running, running, and 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 in this context, there's no disrespect, so when I bust
Friends, fellow Cincinnatians, listeners around the world, welcome to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld. I'm your host, PG Sittenfeld. We have a great show for you today. I am your Cincinnati City Councilman, but for the next hour, I am just here to be part of the conversation, and it is going to be a good one. As I am for so many shows, I am joined by my co-pilot in studio, the Tamaya Denard. How you doing, Tamaya?
I'm fantastic, PG. How are you?
Tamaya, did you get a haircut? Are you wearing a new suit, or something looks a little, yeah, no, yes, no?
It's a new suit.
It's a new suit. All right, I'm just trying to, give me some credit for being observant. You have to, for those of you that haven't met Tamaya in person, you have to pay her a compliment every once in a while, or you start getting this evil eye look.
I'm training PG.
It's slowly,
getting him ready for
slowly, but my future wife
exactly.
will thank you very much. We, of course, want to give a shout-out to our sponsors who help make this show possible. That would be Celebrities at 7617 Reading Road. Get out there and check it out. If you want to, I'll meet you out there. Shoot me a text. Let me know when you're going. I will see you there. Now, due to scheduling issues, we sometimes need to sit down with extra important guests and do our interviews in advance, which means we will not be able to take your calls today. But do not go anywhere, because we have with us in studio Supreme Court Justice of the state of Ohio, Yvette McGee-Brown, who I might add is also the first African-American female justice in Ohio, and we will be talking with her in just 1 minute. And that sort of frames what we're going to be talking about today, our judicial system. The judicial system has such a huge impact on all of our lives, and yet, and I know this is some of you listening, people might deny it. Too often, I think people go to the polls, you vote for governor, you vote for president, then you get to that page of judges, and you don't even finish voting. You don't finish voting. So, still clearly so important. We're going to talk about what is the impact of the judicial system on our lives, as well as how does it need to be improved. I don't think anyone's going to pretend that our judicial system is perfect as it is, and we're going to be talking with, throughout the show, a handful of those people who are either leading our judicial system or trying to lead it. And before we begin with the justice, I do have to say we have a special celebrity producer for today's show. Emmanuel Livingston is actually producing today's show. Byron Thompson has somehow been given the day off. He's in the Bahamas or something. To have Emmanuel producing this, I feel like I'm being coached by Michael Jordan. It doesn't feel right, but so if there's a little something extra in today's show, then now you know what it is. So without further ado, Justice Yvette McGee-Brown, thank you so much for being on Talk of the Town.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, we want to hear all about you. You have a very compelling story, but I think to start things out, this is something that I probably should know a little bit more about than I do. Explain to listeners, what exactly does the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio do?
Well, there are 7 of us on the Supreme Court. Right now, there are 6 Republicans. I'm the only Democrat. And we've been around for 210 years now. I'm the first African-American woman to serve on the court and the first person of color in 37 years.
And congratulate. And no, it's awesome. So
thank you. And we decide big constitutional issues. So for most people, the Court of Appeals will be their last stop. But we take about 4% of the cases that are appealed to us, and we deal with things that are constitutional in nature or have broad general impact to the rest of the state.
And how do you all decide? So 4%, obviously, you're taking not a whole lot of the cases that go to the Court of Appeals. How does it end up deciding what makes it into the hands of the highest court in all the land being Ohio in this case?
It's by majority vote. So what happens is we go through about 150 to 200 cases every 2 weeks. We work on a 2-week cycle. And so you have to get 4 votes. And typically there's about 100 cases where there is a request for the court to exercise jurisdiction. In order for that to happen, 4 of the 7 justices have to agree with you that it's appropriate to be in the Supreme Court.
Now, you are a persuasive woman. I've heard you speak. You're a very talented speaker. But as you mentioned, 6 Republicans, 1 Democrat. Do you have trouble counting to 4 votes from time to time? I'm guessing, wondering?
No, not really. It's very interesting because once
I told you she was persuasive.
Once the campaign is over, there's not Democrat laws or Republican laws. There's just the law, and there's the Constitution. So that has not presented a problem. We debate the Constitution, we debate the laws, and we make a decision.
Right. Now, as you mentioned, the court has been around for a couple hundred years. You have not been there the whole time.
No.
As you said, so you are the first African-American female justice. Can you say, what does that mean to you? And I guess equally important, what do you think it means to other people? What's your message to young people who, you can say, there might be barriers in your life, but look at my story.
Well, it's interesting because tonight I'm going to be at the Children's Defense Fund dinner. I'm giving the keynote there. And that's one of the things I'm going to say to the audience that, everybody's got a story. And for me, it's very humbling. I never could have imagined growing up in the Brittany Hills area of Columbus with a teenage mother that I would one day be in this place. But I think what I like to say to young people is that no matter what happens to you in your life, you've got to just be pushing forward. You've got to prepare yourself for the future, even when around you there aren't other people doing likewise. So you've got to stay in school, get a strong education. Don't let things take you out of the game. Don't get involved in criminal behavior. Don't get pregnant before you're ready. Focus on who you want to be in the future, and opportunity is going to be there.
So if I had had the chance to talk to, let's say, 12-year-old Yvette McGee Brown before there was a justice at the beginning of your name, which at 12, when you were 12, that was about 20 years ago.
Oh,
now,
bless your heart. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If we had met them, what would 12-year-old Yvette McGee Brown had said she thought she was going to do when she grew up?
Oh, at 12, I was probably like most girls. I was thinking about, will I have a boyfriend? Does my butt look big in these jeans?
Tamaya's like, how am I supposed to answer that question again? I think
no.
It's always no.
I will say, I mentioned our celebrity producer today, Emmanuel Livingston. Emmanuel, on occasion, has been known to answer that question with, he's an honest man. He is an honest man.
But I'll tell you, at 12 in my neighborhood, I really don't know what I thought about being, because in all candor, most of the people in my neighborhood, the households were led by a single mom. My mother worked in a factory and she cleaned office buildings at night. My mother's biggest hope for me is that I graduated high school not pregnant. This has been like gravy, everything else. So I don't know at 12 I could have told you what I wanted to be.
Well, let me ask you this then. I mean, how did you, it's one thing to say, work hard, believe in yourself. How did you do it? I mean, it's not, from Brittany Hills and the daughter of a single mother to one of the highest justices in the land in the great state of Ohio. How did it happen?
Well, you know what? I had good friends and I had good teachers who believed in me, because nobody takes the journey alone. What was, I think, the game changer for me is that I did well in school. And I had teachers who kind of pushed me to take the harder classes. And a pivotal point that I remember is when I was 16, being in the hallway with my football playing boyfriend, because then that's all that matters, right? And I was being a little inappropriate. And my guidance counselor walked up behind me, hooked her arm through mine and said, "You're too smart not to go to college." And for whatever reason, that woman made it her business to expose me to scholarships, financial aids, take me on college trips. And I think in everybody's life, there are people who extend their hand. You just have to take a breath sometimes and be willing to reach for it. And so I just had mentors along the path who saw something in me before I saw it in myself.
We talk a lot about education here on Talk of the Town, and it's so true. I mean, we know this anecdotally, but I think there's research too that if one serious role model, one serious mentor can intervene in a young person's life that might otherwise be heading down a bad path, can completely change the outcome.
Completely, because you don't know what you don't know. Kids think everybody grows up like them. So in my neighborhood, I thought that's how everybody lived. I didn't know there was a bigger world out there, and you need somebody to kind of stretch you from time to time, push you, not to let you settle.
So I actually am the bad influence in Tamaya's life, but she has other people that balance that out. So
we're very glad.
It ends up working. So obviously that path started to narrow, and law somehow attracted you. What was it about the universe of law that compelled you?
Well, I went to Ohio University, and I'll be candid with your listeners talking about being a teenage girl. Our teachers took us down for a visit to OU, and they allowed us to go to a fraternity party, an alpha party. And all I knew is I said, if this is college, sign me up. I'm in.
Justice, this is a family-oriented show, so you don't have to share every detail about your 18-year-old visit to the fraternity row at OU.
But that's what got me interested. But then when I got to college, I was going to be a journalist. And it was actually my college advisor who suggested I go to law school because I wanted to work in Congress. I wanted to be a press secretary. I loved political science. And she suggested if I was going to go to D.C., I should go to law school.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm slightly on the younger side. I got a lot of friends that are coming out of law school, and from a handful of them, I'm getting a little bit of, wait, why did I go to law school again? Is being, and obviously, you've done a lot of public service. Other people go into firm life or other people join corporations. Is being a lawyer and the promise of sort of being a lawyer what it used to be? I think, some folks, especially when they're graduating with huge debts, they're struggling to get a law job. I mean, do you encourage young people today to say, go to law school, be a lawyer?
Well, I think it depends on why you want to be a lawyer. In Ohio, we're swearing in 1,000 new lawyers a year. That's a lot in our economy right now. So when people ask me, I always say, why do you want to be a lawyer? I do believe if you're going to spend 2 years getting an MBA, I'd rather spend 3 years and get a law degree. I think it makes you versatile. As a lawyer, you don't have to necessarily practice law. You can go and run a company. You can go into the private sector, but you've got to be clear on why you're doing it. I don't advise anybody to get into six-figure debt. I think to get yourself into that kind of debt, you just never get out from under it. So you've got to be very pragmatic about why you're going, if you can afford to go, and how much money do you expect to make on the back end.
Right. Yeah, and I think you do make a good point that I do know actually a lot of people also who have gone on to law school, but not necessarily to be a lawyer.
Right.
They ended up going into business or into academia or public service, plenty of other avenues. So you are a justice in the Supreme Court. I have not been one. I never will be. In fact, you might be the only justice in the Supreme Court of Ohio that I actually know. What's your favorite part of the job?
It's really that I'm intellectually curious. So I love the breadth of issues that we deal with. I love the fact that we are having a part as the third branch of government in Ohio's democracy. I love feeling like I'm making a difference for the people of this state. Most people don't think about the Supreme Court, but we decide cases that impact your insurance carrier, your employment contract, whether you're entitled to workers' compensation, how your house is built, everything that impacts ordinary people, we decide.
Well, and this is part of why we're having this show today is we're going to encourage people that might not always have judges and judicial races on their mind to keep those things on their mind because they're very important. Justice Yvette McGee-Brown is going to stick around for another segment. You're listening to Talk of the Town on 1230, The Buzz of Cincinnati.